Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If we want to rear children, we want to have successful children in our life, we need to know their features. There are 4 kinds of features that are necessary if we want to rear children. The first kind or the first group are physical features. The second group are intellectual or mental features. The third kind are emotional features. And the fourth kind are social features. Now, in this video, we would talk about the physical features and the importance or significance of these features in rearing children. Hello, welcome to our channel, Lovely Life. This is Mahmoud Karimi speaking to you. We want to know what are the most important physical features of children. If we want to mention the physical features of children, we would say that there are 2 significant features for them. In fact, 2 significant physical features for children. The first is that they are full of energy, they are hyperactive. And the second is that they like this kind of activity and they enjoy their activity or using up their energies. But as you approach the puberty age, these features would begin to fade away. If we want to talk about the energy of children, we should say that children usually do not have heavy weight, do not have a high weight, but at the same time, they are full of energy and they have much calorie. Therefore, they should move, they should run, they should rush in order to use up this energy. Give you an example, it would be clear to you. For example, a man who is 20 years old, he weighs almost 65 kilograms. And this man would use up about 3,300 kilocalories. But a child who is 7 years old, he is almost 25 kilograms and he uses up about 2,800 kilocalories. As you see, the weight of the child is 1/3 of that of the adult man, but the difference of calorie is just 400 kilocalories. This fact indicates that children should have more and more activities to use up and to burn up their energy and their calories. So another example, just compare the break time for children and the break time for adult men. So at the school, when it's time for the break, you see that children would rush out of the class, noisy, active, full of energy. But in a meeting that adults hold, when there is the time of break, many adult men almost like to stay in their own places without any movement, without any activity. So this shows that children are full of energy and they like and they must use up their energy. Our mistake sometimes in education is that we force them to sit at a desk. In fact, we are imprisoning them in some classes, imprisoning them with some teachers. Let them be free and enjoy their life and do whatever they like. Now, I'd like to give you another example. Some time ago, I watched a clip from a Japanese preschool. This school was somehow in the form of a circle, in a circular form. Children had enough space to walk, to run, to be active, to play. In fact, the classroom is something like a workshop. It is not a roofed class. There is no wall, there is no window. So you see that they are quite free. The director of this preschool says, when he measured the physical activity of these children, he saw that, for example, from 8 to 10 in the morning, these children, in an average level, ran about 4 kilometers. It means that every hour, 2 kilometers, running and walking. And he says that I did not prevent them from walking or running around. They were playing, they were jumping from one place to another place, they were climbing the trees, used to play together, they used to work together. This is something that quite made them happy. And we should not prevent children from this kind of activities. And this is a good example for us to learn for rearing our children. Now there is a question, is there any relation between physical activity of children and their intelligence or developing their intelligence? The Holy Prophet of Islam says, "Aramatu as-sabiyyi fi sigharihi ziyadatu aqlihi fi kibarih." It means the physical activity of children in their childhood would lead to an increase in the wisdom of these children when they are grown up. So as you see, there is a relation between the activity or the physical activity of children and their smartness and their intelligence when they are grown up. So if we want to educate a generation who is smart and fresh, then when they are children, we should leave them free. They should not sit just at the desk. They should not be imprisoned in the classrooms. They should be free. But we can define some activities for our children and pave the way to do their activities in the best way, to use up their energy and calories in a proper way. Another point that is important to talk about is direct education and indirect education of children. You know that when we want to educate people, sometimes we use direct education, as we have the academic education in the school, in the universities, academies, and so on, and sometimes indirect education. And usually our emphasis is on direct education. But this kind of education, although it's good, but it's not enough, and even sometimes it is harmful. Now, for example, just suppose that you want your child to learn language. A child would learn language from the time that he is 1 year old to the time that he is 3 years old. So at this time, you have two ways to teach your child learn the language. The first way, or the first choice, is let your child be with his sisters, brothers, other children, play, and then learn the language. Or you just send this child to a room with a teacher, although he is the best teacher, and just tell the teacher, please teach this child learning language. Now, which way is more successful? It is quite evident, it is quite clear that the first way is more successful, and the first choice is better than the second choice. So nowadays, we have educational systems, and our educational systems have quite good technology. They have good methodologies. So everything, every facility is there. But at the same time, this new technology and these methodologies would not help our children learn better, would not help our children, in fact, manage their life, to have a good child life or childish life. Why? Because we do not let them have indirect education enough. And this indirect education is very important. In fact, in the past, people would leave children more free. They would play in the open space. They would be in the nature. They would go to the desert. They would go to the mountain. They would be free to play with all children actively, not passively, as we have some passive enjoyments for children nowadays, and this is very harmful to them. So because these freedoms were there for our children, so this kind of freedom would help them have more concentration, have deeper contemplation, and the power of their decision making would be more and more. But we have omitted this kind of activity from the life of our children, and this is very harmful to them. I would give you an example here. You know that some people have villages in the mountains. They live in the mountain, so there are not enough facilities. There are not, in fact, the variety of food that we have in the cities and in the big cities. But at the same time, when you compare those who are grown up in the mountains and in the mountainous areas with those who are grown up in the big cities, you see that those who live in the mountainous areas, they are much stronger. Their resistance would be much more than those who live in the big cities. Or another comparison, when you see, for example, the guerrilla forces, these guerrilla forces in every part of the world, they would fight against the classic armies, armies which have had classic education and classic, in fact, military education. But these guerrillas sometimes would be much more powerful and much more resistant than those who've had those classic military education. There is a hadith from Ali bin Abi Talib saying, "Ala wa inna ash-shajarata al-barriyata aslabu 'udan war-rawati'u al-khadiratu araqqu juludan." So we have two kinds of trees. Some of the trees are grown in the desert, okay? In the desert where there is not enough water, there is not fertile soil, but some of the trees are grown in the farm. The farmer every day is taking care of them. There is enough water, there is enough fertilizer, and so on. The wood of which of them is much stronger? He says the wood of those trees which are grown in the desert are much stronger than the wood of and the bark of those trees which are grown close to the water and the land which is rich in water and rich in fertilizer. So it is an example to show every creature lives in its own nature. The important point here is that we should direct the activity of our children to a proper direction, but we should not limit their activities, okay? We should direct their activities, because sometimes we take our children away from their natural habits from their natural environments, and this is harmful to them. Sometimes we would define some substitute jobs for our children. Okay, instead of being in the nature, being in an environment and playing with their classmates, we would send them to school, we would control them, we would take care of them very sensitively, and this would somehow prevent the child from growing properly. In successful educational systems of the world, they emphasize the natural features of children because children are energetic, they are hyperactive. Therefore, we should pave the way to use up this energy, to show their activity and be free. We should not take this natural pleasure from them, this natural enjoyment from them, but we can control it, we can direct it to the best direction. So if we take away this natural enjoyment and this natural pleasure from our children, what happens? They would go and they would turn to some kind of false and fake pleasures or some passive pleasures instead of active pleasures. As we see, for example, our children nowadays just playing with what is in the mobile or tablet or television or something like that. And this is not natural. This would make the child passive instead of making him active. Now, if we want the energy of our children be burnt up in a proper way, what is the best way? What is the most important way? We can say that the most important way is playing. Let children play, and playing should be emphasized more. In fact, playing is an infrastructure for the education of children. Maybe hundreds of hours of education in the classrooms cannot do what a successful natural play does. In our next video, we would talk about this way of education more. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel. And if you like this video, please leave your comments on it.